Hey guys, it's me, Mario. Today we're going to continue Narga, the sea monster. Chapter 5, On the Trail. How you guys doing today? Hope you're doing well. Chapter 5, On the Trail. The Gorgonian bandits careful to stay out of range of Tom's sword, formed a circle around him. "Make it easy for yourself, boy," one of them said. Unskippable lad. Blah, 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 blah. Put the sword away. "Make me," Tom replied defiantly. From some distance behind him, a storm gave a whine as if he were cheering him on. Tom studied his enemies. There were about 15 of them, all muscular men with vicious weapons. Their smug faces told him they clearly assumed he couldn't possibly win against their numbers. "I'll show them how strong they are," Tom thought. As the first bandit stepped forwards, his huge club raised, Tom darted underneath his arm and gave the man a hard blow on the back with the flat end of his sword. The bandit went sprawling to the ground. Tom spun around to meet his next attacker. As their swords clashed, the power of the golden gauntlets gave Tom unbeatable speed and skill. His sword slashed, and with a twist of his wrist, he sent the other man's sword flying, leaving him looking stupidly at his empty hand. As two more attackers jumped towards him, Tom dodged between them, causing the two men to crash into each other. The bandits kept coming. One of them grabbed him from behind, and Tom drove his elbow into the man's chest. The bandit fell backwards, pulling Tom down to the ground with him. With screams of triumph, the others leaped on top of Tom and pinned him down. Their weight pressed him into the mud, and he thought he would choke on the stench of their unwashed bodies. Hands were grabbing at him from all directions. "We've got him!" one of the bandits shouted. Tom braced himself, summoning the superhuman strength that the golden breastplate gave him. He shot up right on to his feet, and the bandits let out yells of surprise and terror as they flew in all directions. Tom looked about. The bandits lay sprawled on the ground. Some were stunned and not moving, while others groaned as they tried to get up. To Tom's relief, Silver had recovered and was giving himself a shake. A low growl came from his throat when he looked at the bandits. "Never mind them," Tom said. We've got to save Elena. He ran to Storm and leaped into the saddle, urging the stallion forwards. He skirted the thicket and found the bandits, horses tied to branches on the other side. Tom took a moment to slash his sword through the reins and let them free. He splat them on their rumps to send them galloping in the opposite direction from the swamp. The bandits won't be chasing us in a hurry, he said with satisfaction. Then he turned Storm's head in the direction that the gent had taken. Silver bounded alongside them. Tom used the bounty hunter's trail of trampled grass and dislodged stones to follow them. It led away from the quicksand and the black ocean, back towards the mountains, but further east than the track Tom and Elena had followed. I wish I knew this place better, he muttered to himself. Gent said he was going to the town to get a message to Melville, but I've no idea how far it is. He thought of getting out to the map again, but he knew he couldn't trust it, and it would be harder to spot Gent's trail once they reached the mountains. He had to catch up now. Tom urged Storm forwards. At last, Tom, Storm, and Silver reached the mountains. The path wound among black rocks, and Tom stiffened as he heard the sound of horses' hooves a little way ahead. He leaned down and put a hand on Silver's muzzle, signaling for him to be silent. Slowing Storm to a walk, Tom followed the trail around a jutting boulder and spotted Gent some way ahead, riding up a long slope towards a ridge. Eleanor was over the back of his saddle. Tom urged Storm forwards again, hoping that the bounty hunter would not hear Storm's hooves on the rocky ground. Almost at once, Almost at once, though, Gent glanced over his shoulder and saw them. He tugged his heels into his horse's flanks to pick up speed. A moment later, he had vanished over the ridge. Tom pursued him beyond the ridge was... Tom pursued him beyond. The ridge was a steep slope covered with rocks, leading down into a narrow gorge. Gent was about halfway down, his horse waving among the boulders. "Stop!" Tom yelled. "Turn and fight!" Gent glanced back at him, but he didn't stop or reply to Tom's challenge. Tom was careful as he guided Storm down the slope, but he still managed to shorten the distance between him and Gent by the time they reached the gorge. As the ground leveled out, he urged the tired Storm into one last gallop. Up ahead, Tom saw the bounty hunter drew his sword and scrape it against the rocky wall of the gorge before racing ahead. "What's he doing?" he muttered. Tom muttered. Is he sharpening his sword so he can hurt Elena? A rumble sounded from above Tom's head. Looking up, he understood what Gent had done. Vibrations from the bounty hunter's sword had dislodged stones from the rock wall, and they were now cascading down onto Tom and his friends. Tom dragged on the reins and drew Storm aside just as a huge boulder landed inches from the stallion's flying hooves. Then the roaring of rocks, a valence was all around them as they galloped forwards. Tom ducked to avoid a rock and felt his hair ruffle as it passed over his head. Silver leaped over a rock which thumped to the ground. A shower of stones and earth knocked the wolf over, but he scrambled up again and raced for the clear space ahead. Leaning forwards on Storm's neck, Tom felt the patter of stone chips on his back and boulders. Shoulders. His eyes stung from the dust and grit in the air. Then he was through, and the last stones of the avalanche were slamming down behind him. Gent and Elena were nowhere to be seen. Tom slowed Storm to a walk and looked carefully around. He examined the ground, but he still couldn't see anything to tell him where Gent had gone. Just ahead, the gorge slid into several different paths. Which way? He thought desperately. Chapter 6. Silver to the Rescue. That was chapter 5. This was a long chapter on the trail. This was a decently long chapter, in my opinion. But yeah. Narga the Sea Serpent on the trail. Good chapter. Good chase scene. Hope I read it well. But yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed this chapter. And I hope you like the other chapters I did on this book and the previous books before this. This is the third book of the third series. I like to call this one the Beasts of Gorgonia. So yeah. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the series so far. I hope I will see you guys in the next one. Alright. Bye-bye.